When ChatGPT came into the market, it just brought a whole revolution into the whole space, and then everybody else started getting discovered in the process, right? So we respected copyrights, we respected artist rights, and we said like, okay, we are not going to scrape, we are going to license. And how we license is we directly went to artists and we started doing licensing deals with them. We have worked with the likes of bands like Parvaz, from India, like musicians from A.R. Rahman's band, because ultimately building an AI tool that generates music is all about diversity. We are ethical, we focus on a very specific problem, I think that's going to be our DNA going forward as well. So virality is not something that we can predict. Everybody wants to know which is the next song, whether it's generated by an artist or it's generated by an AI. It is a very difficult problem to predict and say, okay, this song is going to be a hit. There is also video to audio. Video to audio is much more interesting. So that's where we use Gemini's API, where for computer vision, you can just give a video and we will do the scene analysis and we'll get the context, what is going on in the visuals. And then that will be used as a guidance to be able to generate music. Spotify is more like a music streaming service, right? So the equivalent of that in India would be Ghana and Savan and all of these guys. I think we would be something like a Canva for music. Everyone is a musician is not a true statement. So how do we define a musician? That is a very important question.
Welcome to another episode of Tech Talks. This is Siddharth Jindal from AIM Media House. And today we are speaking with Mr. Mansoor, founder of Beatoven.ai. He is a professional sitar player and is a perfect example of mixture of tech and music. So, Mansoor, I'd like to know, what's the inspiration behind starting Beatoven and how did you manage to mix tech and music?
So maybe I'll start with my background, like you just touched upon it a little bit. So my family has been in music for like almost 7 generations. So we have been, pioneers in sitar music. So basically what that means is that the instrument has evolved in shape and form within the family over generations. I personally obviously was very interested in music, being born in a family like this. So I learned from my father, Ustad Chhote Rahmat Khan. And I've been trained professionally in sitar playing. So I give performances, I have launched music on streaming, done all of that. But I was also extremely passionate about tech. I loved math and I got into engineering. And then I decided, is there a space where I can combine these two interests? And music and technology are like both very fascinating, but music tech is something that is super niche. And that hunt started very early on when I was in my college days. So initially I used to do like smaller projects like in machine learning, signal processing, doing research in my first project was actually doing research on the sound of sitar. So that was back in college. And then over a period of time, then you start building interest in that space. But what happens is like the opportunities don't exist for all kinds of fields in India, right? So you have to take a job to work in, obviously you have to meet the finances. So I got into finance and I was doing derivatives trading, something very different from what I studied. I was trading futures and options markets in the US and I was doing that for some time. And then that calling just comes automatically. You realize that, okay, you know what, you need to go back to what you are really meant to do. And I went for my master's in music tech at Georgia Tech in Atlanta in the US. I came back to India. I was working with an audio tech startup here. Fortunately, there was that movement starting slowly in India. And then I kind of started going in that direction. My last stint was I was a senior product manager at Great Learning, which is an edtech which was acquired by Byju's for $600 million. So I saw the whole phase of startups, like early stage, late stage, music tech. So I had a little bit of understanding of everything, and now I kind of realized that if I want to do something in this space from India, I need to start a company. And I started looking out for a person who has very similar backgrounds like me, because this is a passion space. It's not just like, okay, problem and solution. You need to be deeply passionate to solve in this industry. And fortunately, I found somebody very similar backgrounds in this space. And yeah, that's a little bit of an inception story of why we got into this space in the first place. A story of Beatoven I will tell you along the way as we go through this podcast here.
I'd like to know about the fascinating journey of your meeting your co-founder.
So it was not so fascinating. I mean, so I was pretty clear that I knew like what kind of guy or girl, would I want to work with. Basically, what that means is like the person had to have deep passion in music, deep passion in technology, and would potentially want to take on the role of building things. I also personally have built things, but what I realized is like I have a very vast network of artists and creators, and I would be doing a much better job at just being out there in the market and talking to people, so doing customer development and research, user research, things like that. So I met Siddharth Bharadwaj. He also has a very interesting background. He's done his BTech from IIIT Allahabad, Masters in Music Technology from Spain in UPF Barcelona. Came back to India, worked with Samsung Research, several startups, only focused on audio tech. He's very particular, like I will take a job in audio tech. Okay. So that kind of a background really attracted me, like this person is really passionate. So we were very well aligned that, okay, both of us want to do something in this field, but we didn't know yet. And this is back in late 2020, early 2021. Where things like generative were not even being talked about. And we were just like exploring ideas together, pivoting on conversations, and just trying to find a space, which would be perfect for both of us to work together, potentially for the next 5 to 10 years of our life. Yeah.
So recently we have seen that it's a very tricky business, like copyright claims come into the picture, and like AI startups in itself, be of any field, are finding it difficult to make revenue. Right. So how are you navigating the path?
So I think one thing we need to understand is this is an extremely new technology. Even though it's been like 2 years, 3 years since, the technology is not new, but the movement is new, right? Like what I mean to say is that like AI has been around for quite some time. Machine learning has been around for quite some time. But it has not seen the adoption at the consumer level the way it has seen this time. Because when ChatGPT came into the market, it just brought a whole revolution into the whole space. And then everybody else started getting discovered in the process, right? So that is something new. But it is not too old, right? It's just been 2 years. And when all these companies were building these technologies, it was more about building a tech. It wasn't about figuring out all the elements of the things. Those questions are coming in now. But having said that, I believe that there has to be a conscious call to make sure that the data on which these models are being trained on, either we compensate these artists or creators through licensing deals, or through some compensation, and not just be scraping and building and hoping that regulation will work inside of our favor. So that is one very fundamental difference that we had at Beatoven, because we were artists building it. We were not computer scientists alone, right? So we respected copyrights, we respected artist rights, and we said like, okay, we are not going to scrape, we are going to license. And how we license is we directly went to artists and we started doing licensing deals with them. We have worked with the likes of bands like Parvaz, from India, like musicians from A.R. Rahman's band, all of these big. But we have also worked with the smallest of music producers coming from the most remotest villages in India. So we have seen that entire diversity, because ultimately building an AI tool that generates music is all about diversity. Like, what kind of output can you generate and give to the user that is using a platform. So yeah, copyrights has to be respected. Our competition has scraped and has been sued. You have already seen those things. So that's my view on copyright. That it is either there has to be a new law that respects and fairly compensates, or existing law is not able to keep up with what is happening in the market. Yeah.
So according to you, that your competitors like Suno and Udio have been accused of copyright claims. So, and what does Beatoven does differently? And speaking from tech side as well, and from copyright, you have already mentioned about the licensing deals.
Right.
So how would you differentiate Beatoven from your competitors?
Right. So so the competition is also something that is very evolving. Like in the sense, not everybody is going after the same market. So if you see Suno Audio, their philosophy is that everybody wants to make music, and they're democratizing music access. So they're basically saying that give a prompt, give lyrics, and we'll generate a whole song for you. We are going after a very different problem. We are saying that content creators who are making videos, games, podcasts, and different kinds of content, they are constantly struggling with copyright infringement issues. And this is happening as we speak, right? YouTube videos are being taken down, monetization claims are being put. And this is all because of the way how content ID and copyrights work as of today, right? So we believe that generative music has the potential to solve this problem. And how it has the potential to solve this problem is if a user can prompt and generate an original soundtrack and license it and use it in their content, and be able to show the platforms like, hey, I have generated it from this tool and I have a license and I can ethically use it in my work. And the platform is also not infringing on anybody's copyrights. The platform is also licensing deals by artists. So it just closes the entire loop. So that is our focus as a business model. Versus these companies are more about like, okay, we want to build the best tech ever in terms of how music should sound like using generative AI. But we will go to any extent, like, to be able to do that. And I'm not going to like accuse them of doing anything because it is still in court pending. Like, it is still a matter that is yet to be resolved. But there have been several people who have tested these tools. They have written blogs and they have found like very, very similar songs that have been generated to the songs that they have been trained on, which the music that we have listened to. So that is a little bit of a worrying sign, honestly. So that is how we fundamentally differ. We are ethical. We focus on a very specific problem. Yeah, I think that's going to be our DNA going forward as well. Yeah.
Okay. So, like, according to your estimates, by when we can expect a nice viral AI music video coming out soon? Like,
AI music video.
yeah.
Interesting. So I think I recently saw like this adoption has started. Like, there are some tools that help you generate AI music videos. But if you remember, there was a song that had gone viral, right? If you remember Drake's song, which was basically like, somebody just trained a model and then released it and just went viral over the internet, and then people had to take it down because it was just going out of control. So this has already happened. So virality is not something that we can predict. I think you guys are also in content, you're aware, right? Virality is a factor of many things. And even today, like, the labels haven't been able to figure out like which is the next hit song. Everybody wants to know which is the next hit song, whether it's generated by an artist or it's generated by an AI. It is a very difficult problem to predict and say, okay, this song is going to be a hit, because it's a matter of a lot of things. It's a matter of like how people perceive it, how they adopt it. How are they using it? Today, content plays a big role in virality. Like, are they using it in their reels? Are they like making it trend on TikTok, on Instagram? So it is a factor of a lot of things. So I think what AI does is it gives the power to these influencers to curate their soundtracks and then potentially even make them viral. So that is a very different theme than what exists as of today in the market. Yeah.
So, have you partnered with any music labels? Like, what is your business model, and how do you work?
So we are not partnered with music labels, but we have done direct artist deals, where we basically compensate the artist and we buy like samples and data set from the artist, and this like through an exclusive deal. So basically, let's say I want to do a band with a band like Parvaz, or like, okay, let's say we just did a deal with Khalid Ahmed from the lead singer of Parvaz. So what we did is we told Khalid, hey, listen, we want your identity into this AI system. We want you to record, let's say, 400 different sounds of your voice, your guitar playing, and all of these aspects, and it has to be a completely original creativity. And he sat in the studio for a month, and he dedicatedly recorded, and he sent us things, and then he got compensated for it. So that is the supply side of the business, where basically the artist is knowingly contributing to an AI system where they've been aware that this is something that is going to be used as an artificial intelligence music generator for content creators. And they are also getting compensated for it, and they're also getting social media presence across our website, across our socials for this. So all of that is kind of happening. So they are also happy, we're also happy. That's the supply business. The demand is more like, so we have like close to 1.5 million users, and these are content creators who create YouTube videos, podcasts, games, mostly like creators. And what they are essentially using this is for background scores. And we have two models there. One is subscription, so which works pretty well for people who are frequently creating content. Let's say somebody's creating 4 to 6 videos a month. They would prefer a subscription model. But somebody who's just creating a movie soundtrack, like a short film soundtrack, they would just use something like a pay-per-use model. So we have both the models available on the website. So that's our business model as of right now.
Can we call you the Spotify of AI music in India?
So Spotify, I think the Spotify of AI music would not be the right. I think that's a very tough one. I would say Spotify is more like a music streaming service, right? So the equivalent of that in India would be Ghana and Savan and all of these guys. I think we would be something like a Canva for music. You can think of it that way, because Canva truly democratized design, right? It gave the power of design to literally everyone. So I think our direction is and thinking is in that direction. Yeah.
So can we say that now everyone is a musician?
Everyone is a musician is not a true statement. So how do we define a musician? That is a very important question. Is prompting and generating music a musician? I don't know. Maybe that is going to be the new musician. But as of where we stand today, a musician is somebody who has spent time understanding their instrument, their skills, like, You have so many music producers in your team. So all these guys would know that, they have spent so much of their time learning all these skill sets, tools like Ableton, FL Studio, spending hours and hours, day in, day out, learning how to produce music. And then you get to a skill where you're able to move audiences, right? You're able to like make somebody else feel how they feel about your way of looking at music. So that's truly an artist. It's a very individual journey. Like every artist is very unique. So calling everyone a musician, and my biggest question is, does everyone want to be a musician? Because as of today, I don't see that pattern. Like not everyone is learning music. So I don't believe that it truly democratizes. It gives you access to basically curate things the way you like, versus relying on a third person to be able to curate it for you. So that is how I look at it.
So, and what has been the initial feedback from your customers who have used your product, and how are they responding to it, and are they planning to use it in the future as well, and they're coming back?
Yeah, so that is a very good question. So right now the market that we are targeting is primarily these creators, content creators, right? Like, so these are like I'll give you a description. So this could be like somebody who's creating, let's say, a game, and they want to design the sound for that game. Okay, like when the game starts, I want this music. When the gameplay is happening, I want this music. Or let's say it's somebody who's like creating a vlog, and they have like different scene shots. So at this scene shot, I want this music to change this way. At this scene shot, I want the music to change this way. So these are the kind of customers that we have. But these are like independent businesses, right? They are not like they're like one-man shows, like one-man YouTubers, one-man content creator. Now these folks tend to keep trying out new tools. You would have seen like the biggest adoption for products like Midjourney, all of these came from this set of individuals. They wanted to evaluate and see if can I use AI tools to complement my work. And they are doing the same behavior with Beatoven as well. So these initial users, we have also seen there is a new type of user. It's called AI artist. So what these guys do is they will script on ChatGPT. They will create the images on Midjourney. They will go to Runway and create the video, and they will generate the music on Beatoven. And they will stitch and they'll create a whole end-to-end AI generated content piece and put it on YouTube. So this is a very new behavioral pattern which didn't exist in the past. So these are the kind of different use cases that we have seen. And for us right now, more than like focusing on the like the main metrics as we call it, it's more about use cases, because we are a seed stage startup. We are still figuring out which is the best use case for the technology that we have built. So recently we did the music for Google I/O in Bangalore. That is a unimaginable use case. Like nobody even thought like, okay, when a speaker is coming on stage and talking, the music that is being played in the background is generated by AI. And it has taken the users, the speakers' biography and their music tastes as an input to be able to generate that. So this was a very new use case. We are talking to a university now who wants like their students to create AI music collaboratively. So there are so many use cases that we are seeing. So we are studying the use case market. Like we are trying to understand what is the best market for this solution that we have built, and then going vertically inside of that market. So yeah, that's where we are at as of today.
So we have seen that Meta has been pretty much aggressive about their AI strategy and AI assistant. And yesterday they released Llama 3.1, and soon we'll expect they also integrate like audio generation capabilities in the Instagram itself, and Google can also add audio generation capabilities in YouTube. Then how will you like navigate through that, and how will you challenge them?
So I don't think we would ever want to challenge them. Okay, to be very frank. You don't want to go against a monster, like, like which is so huge and has such crazy distribution in your market. In fact, they are complementary. The way I see it is, today there is very little research in audio, which is open source. Llama is a fantastic example of like open source AI research. And I'm actually really happy the way how they have been approaching this entire space, because you see a lot of closed research that is happening with a lot of big tech, but they are like one shining light, who's kept it open source for everybody to contribute. Now, what my perspective is, when music generation comes, in fact, they already have launched a model called Music Gen. You're probably aware of it. But what they clearly say is, this is not for commercial use. Basically, you can play around with it. You can probably launch a tool for free of charge also on it. But the moment you put a pricing or a paywall on it, then you have to get the licensing deals sorted. Because they have also licensed content from some of the stock music libraries, and they have trained those models on top of it. So the licensing deal between them and those libraries is, this is only for research purposes. This is not for commercial purposes. So we don't really see that as a threat till that has been figured out. Launching this as a feature instead of Instagram is not as simple as you see it, because it's a very traditional industry. There are music labels, there are distributors, there are publishers they all do these licensing deals with TikTok, Instagram on behalf of the labels, and then they put it. So the songs that you are able to use in the library are basically licensing deals, and every time somebody uses it, or every time some sort of activities happen, there is a small royalty that has to be paid back to these artists on whose music it has been used, right? So it is not that straightforward the way you're saying, okay, like, I built a generative tool, I just plug it into Instagram and I start using it. It doesn't work that way. They have to figure a lot of things out. And for us, the advantage is because we have been a little ahead in this market and we had a head start, we truly see, okay, what is the utility of this? Where is the retention? What kind of use cases are there? And so it will be a complementary tech. It won't be like a threat. But yes, that risk for a startup always exists. Like, what if YouTube builds this as a feature inside of this? Then you're just diminishing. But the fact also remains is that all of these tools have been created tools in the past, and people still tend to go outside of that ecosystem and use other tools for creating. Like, nobody's moved from Adobe Premiere Pro even till today, right? They're still using it. So I'm just giving an example. So I think it's about building a really good product and being able to solve the problem really well. Yeah.
So you rightly mentioned about the open source ecosystem and like how Meta is contributing in it. So on that lines, I also wanted to know about your tech stack, how you are building, how you have built Beatoven, and what's the tech behind it.
So it's seen a lot of evolution, okay? I mean, we weren't using these large models or any of this stuff when we started out. When we started out, we had a very simple idea. We are like, okay, people will give in prompts like genre, mood, tempo. In fact, it was a very selective thing. No natural language as well. It was like, you select like genre, mood, tempo, duration, and then on the basis of that, we'll create a soundtrack. Now, whether they like it, not like it is subjective. If they like it, they'll download it. If they don't like it, they will not download it. So that was the original idea. When ChatGPT came in and then the LLMs started getting a lot of traction, we started realizing we need to take some of this tech inside of our ecosystem. So then we started using the ChatGPT, the OpenAI API, GPT 3.5. So that's integrated inside of our thing. So any natural language prompts that comes, we basically use that. And then that is passed on as a parameter to our models for music generation. So on the tech stack, we use a bit of like a different like stable diffusion. We use like variational autoencoders. So we have more like an ensemble technique of making music. So there is one model that just does instrument arrangement. So, okay, which instruments go well with which other instruments. Then there is one model that constructs something called as structures. Okay, like how is if the user is saying like, give me a soundtrack that sounds a little mellow in the beginning, but then evolves and progresses over time. So understanding that intent and then progressively constructing that track in that format. So there is a different model that does that aspect. Most of these models are proprietary. We have built it ourselves using some of these open source frameworks as well. And the data is ours, right? So we don't have to worry about like the output that is being generated, is it infringing on someone's copyright or not? So that is also another advantage that we have. And so mixing, mastering, so this is another part of the music making process. So there are separate models for that aspect as well. So entirely end to end, different processes take place, and then there is a final composition that is created that is an ensemble of all of these different sequences, and then you have the output. Yeah. But the idea is not, for us, the philosophy is not about getting the output right in the first shot. You will never be able to predict that what is going on in the mind of the person who is prompting it. They already have something in their mind. So the idea is to get them to the output in an iterative fashion. So maybe first prompt you get something, but then give them the ability to edit it so that they can say, okay, I like this track, but can you maybe remove this instrument, or can you add vocals to this, or can you remove like, can you do any of these kind of tweaks, and then keep iterating to the output that you have in your mind. So that is the kind of product philosophy that we have.
And like from compute's perspective, how much compute does it require to run Beatoven?
So compute is expensive from the generation side for training purposes. So basically we use like cloud, like we use like GPUs for primarily training purposes, but for CPUs are used for inferencing. So we have been able to optimize it in such a way that on production, when users are prompting, we are not using GPUs. So that helps us like keep our costs low. So even if we are a free tool, so we are primarily a free tool, but we only charge users at the time of downloads. So only serious users are going to pay for it, right? But if somebody like wants to try it out, they can still just sign up for free and use it for free. So generation cost is still going to be incurred, but it is not at the level which other companies are facing. Other companies have to charge you on generation. If you would have seen, they will limit the number of generations. They will be like, okay, 10 generations, 10 runs. Beyond that, you have to take a subscription. We don't restrict the use on generations because of the CPU inferencing. So our costs are significantly lower in comparison to the general market. Yeah.
Right now, we have seen that your product only does background music. So in the future, what are the new upcoming features which you will be adding to it?
So background music is going to be our focus because that's been our focus from day one, and we are continuing to go in that direction. But our features are going to be able to help and aid content creators to be able to achieve the background music in the easiest way possible. So right now we enable natural language, so where you can give text prompts and generate music. But there are two new features we have launched: audio to audio and video to audio. So what you can do is you can give a sample, like you can say, okay, maybe a dog barking, and you say like, okay, make a hip hop version of this sound. So that is already possible on the tool. So we have not launched it yet because there is an angle of upload where the user is uploading. So we are just figuring out that stuff. But on privately, we have already been starting demoing it to our B2B potential customers. There is also video to audio. Video to audio is much more interesting. So that's where we use Gemini's API, where for computer vision, you can just give a video and we will do the scene analysis and we'll get the context, what is going on in the visuals. And then that will be used as a guidance to be able to generate music. And it is multimodal. You don't have to only give that as a prompt. You can give video plus text prompt. Like you can say like, okay, this is the video, make a track in cinematic genre or make a track in electronic genre. So you are guiding the system better to be able to get to the output that is more accurate to what you have in mind. So our features are in this direction. We also might potentially go in the direction in the future where we are doing voice generation as well. Voice generation as of now is a very expensive proposition and it is taking away a little bit of focus from what we do as of today. But a lot of users have requested for this feature that, can you also have voice as part of your entire stack? So maybe we might just integrate with some company that does it much better, already in the market and add it as a feature onto our tool. So this is what we envision in the next 6 to 12 months. We are also launching a B2B product. This is very interesting. So this is called Augment. And what this does is, if you have an existing music catalog, let's say you're a music producer. So there are two angles to it. You're a music producer and you have a lot of samples. Or you are like a music catalog owner, like a label or a production house that has a lot of owned music. So you can train your data on our model and generate new tracks which sound similar to your data. And you can expose it to your customers and they can prompt and they can find songs that they like from your personal database. So this is a very interesting B2B play that we are exploring right now. And there is another element to it. There is also a search element in it. So this is a search problem, right? And search and generate. So we call it Augment. Like you can search and then you generate. So let's say you have a lot of samples sitting on your laptop and you don't know what you have tagged them as. Like you would have like saved it as a base sample. I think the music producers in this room would have been able to relate to this. It's like, okay, you have created so many projects in the past and you've saved these files here and there and you don't know where to look for it. So you can prompt and you can find those samples. So you don't have to correctly tag them. The natural language prompt will be able to accurately be able to find and point you to that sample. So it's like, okay, I can type, give me a sample that is like, sounding like jungle techno. And then all the jungle techno samples on your computer would be populated. So it is like a search problem, but then also, can you now remix this into something else? So we are going in that direction on the B2B front. So this is a very new offering, and this has come from some discovery that we have figured out, by talking to a lot of customers and a lot of music producers in the market. Yeah.
So who have been your key partners in your AI plus music journey till now, and how they are helping you?
Key partners from the supply side?
Yeah, supply.
So see, supply side mostly independent artists, and now recently we did a deal with a company in the UK, which has licensed a lot of samples, and it'll be out soon. We are still evaluating. So we are also in talks with the big guys in the space, in terms of content licensing. So the stock music libraries who already have like a lot of composed songs that they're exposing, right? And that is just like ready-made data to be able to feed into our kind of system and then train new music on top of it. So these are some of the partners that we are evaluating. But we also have a lot of partners that have been supporting us through the journey. Like for example, historically, we were part of TechCrunch, Disrupt, Battlefield 200 in San Francisco. One of the very few Indian startups that got there. So we got a lot of support from them. They exposed us to the San Francisco ecosystem. We were part of Qualcomm's launch last year when they launched so Qualcomm had this thing that on-device AI, like how do we generate, and we were one of their official partners. With Qualcomm, we integrated our technology and people could generate music on desktop without connectivity to the internet. So, all these kind of interesting, we were also like part of Google for startups. So since that part, Google has been so supportive. Every time they find a use case, they come to us and like, can you guys do this for us? AWS, we were part of that. We were also part of Amsterdam Dance Event. So Amsterdam Dance Event is one of the biggest music production conference that happens in the world. And we were part of their first cohort of music tech startups called Chorus. So they are helping us build connections in the music industry side of things. So what we have realized is you cannot rely on one partner. You need to have multiple partners and they'll do different things for you. And they will keep helping you through the journey when you are stuck somewhere, So you have these kind of support mechanisms that you can reach out to.
So like, are you planning to raise money in near-term future?
So we do have plans of raising more money, but I think for us, we are more focused towards finding use cases at the moment. I mean, we just recently raised a small round, and our perspective is like we want to like get to really serious product market fit for the product that we have built, and with a really good quality of music output. And also like figuring out some of the interesting B2B use cases that we are navigating right now. Once we have some confidence on these aspects, with this confidence, we will go into market again and raise some more money. So we do have plans, but yeah, maybe like we are 3 to 6 months away from that. Yeah.
So as we know that you come from a family of musicians, like your parents or grandfathers might not have seen the Gen AI tech as of now. So like what have been their response to it, and like how they're reacting to it when they see that like AI can also generate music, which is the art that they have learned over a long period of time. So how they are reacting to it?
So this is very interesting. So because of the artist first approach that we took, none of them protested. So what they in fact did is they supported. So my initial set of the recordings, right, for this model all came from the family. So my uncles, my cousins, my dad, and then their friends, some really big musicians in the circuit, they all recorded only because of the relationships we had, but I used to be very particular and I used to tell them like, this is what we are doing and this is the technology. And I can understand why you would see this as a threat because it is AI and generating music. But the point is like, they were pretty, they were like, okay, I'm making money from this. And if I can keep making money from this over a long period of time and the business model makes sense, we will support this. So actually speaking, they have been extremely supportive. My dad is super supportive of what I do right now. Like he's proud about every small thing every small win we have, he'll share it with everyone. So he's actually very happy. He's not against the idea of this because he believes that this is the future and technology. I mean, he as an artist himself has seen so much of technology revolution. Like he is a musician back from the 80s when he used to tour the West, giving performances. He's seen the era of cassettes. He's seen the era of CDs. He's seen the era of streaming. Now he's seeing the era of AI. So, like they have seen it all and they know that technology is going to be a constant change and we only have to adapt to it.
So with Beatoven, what kind of legacy you want to leave behind for the generations in music industry?
I think one of the most interesting things I love about AI is it's a snapshot of what music sounds like in our generation. So with Beatoven, if it's like an extremely successful product and considering the kind of data that we are training it on, maybe 100 years down the line, if somebody wanted to know, like, what did the music in 1960s sound like? What did the music in 2000 sound like? And they should be able to prompt in the system and be able to hear it. And I think that is a really nice vision that we really want to pursue. Yeah.
What advice you would like to give to budding music artists?
I would say there are already tools out there in the form of plugins, in the form of extensions that are doing all sorts of amazing things. And the big music producers and the more tech-savvy music producers have already started integrating this into their workflows. I would suggest that, don't try to go against technology. See technology as a friend, use it for your purpose, but also make sure that you're not using something that is going against you philosophically. So that is the only point of view that I would have and advice that I would have for budding music producers. Yeah.
And how do you balance your passion for music as an art and as a business?
As an art, I play the sitar. I spend my evenings whenever I have like some time, I'll just sit down with my sitar and I will play some compositions that I've learned in my childhood or try to create something new. As a business, it's a very different game. You look at it as a business. You don't look at it as music. I mean, it's like, how do we generate revenue? How do we get retention? How do we get, how do we improve our financing? How do we get the right margins? What is the kind of investment we want to make on technology? It is a very different kind of thinking than just being an artist. So yeah, that's fundamentally different. Yeah.
Thank you, Mansoor, for taking out your time. It was a very insightful conversation, like really eye-opening how the music industry is evolving. So thank you for coming and taking your time on a weekday. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I'm really glad that you guys brought me onto the show. Thank you so much.